crystalline chamber of the Galactic Concord hall hummed with 100 different frequencies of laughter. Anti-grav pods drifted lazily through the cavernous space, each carrying delegates from species that had ruled the stars for millennia. The blue giant star outside cast shifting hues across their varied forms: chitinous carapaces, gaseous bodies, clusters of floating sensory orbs. At the center of the chamber, holograms flickered to life. The images showed burning human cities, shattered orbital platforms, the twisted wreckage of Earth's last defense fleet. The Crixian ambassador pulsed with amusement, its iridescent gaseous form rippling in waves of violet and gold. Humanity asks for aid after what they did to the Zalkathi? Its voice resonated through the chamber, vibrating the very air. A Vaetheri delegate uncoiled from its pod, its segmented body glistening with psychic dampeners. Its voice slithered directly into every mind present. They were weak, they fell. The words carried the weight of finality, the smug certainty of a predator that had watched prey stumble into a pit. Ambassador Rook stood. His boots clicked against the floor, an archaic sound in a chamber built for beings who floated, slithered, or phased through matter. The scar running from his temple to jaw caught the light as he turned. You never asked how the Zalkathi fell. The chamber's laughter stuttered. A Threxian diplomat, its 4 eye stalks twitching, emitted a derisive chitter. We saw the footage. Your pitiful fleet burned. Your homeworld cracked like an egg. Rook didn't blink. He tapped a control on his wrist. The holograms shifted. Now they showed the Zalkathi Dominion's armada. Thousands of ships, each bristling with weapons that had glassed a dozen species. The Worldbreaker dominated the center, its spinal, mounted annihilation cannon glowing ominously. You see the might that crushed us, Rook said. His voice was calm, almost conversational. What you don't see is the Iron Will. A murmur passed through the delegates. The USN Iron Will, Earth's last flagship. The hologram zoomed in on its broken hull, adrift in the ruins of Earth's orbital defenses. Lieutenant Marachen's voice crackled over the speakers, pulled from some long-dead black box. All batteries fire at my mark, and make sure they're recording. The hologram showed the Iron Will's shattered engines flaring one last time. Not to flee, to charge. The delegates leaned forward, mandibles clicking, sensory orbs dilating. Then the recording glitched. When it cleared, the Worldbreaker was veering wildly off course, its own weapons turning inward. Zalkathi ships collided, their systems spiraling into chaos. The Iron Will's wreckage tumbled silently through the carnage. The Vaetheri delegate recoiled, its psychic presence flickering. This is doctored. Your kind couldn't. Rook smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. We sent you these records 3 years ago. You dismissed them as propaganda. He tapped his wrist again. The holograms froze on the Worldbreaker's final moments, its annihilation cannon overloading, tearing the ship apart from within. The Zalkathi didn't just lose, they broke. The Crixian's gaseous form darkened. Tricks, misdirection. Your species is extinct, Ambassador. Why dredge up these fantasies? A new voice cut through the chamber. Because we're not. Every pod turned. Captain Elias Voss stood in the entrance, his uniform scorched, his face lined with scars no medbay could erase. Behind him, the Iron Will's surviving crew stood in silence. The Threxian's eye stalks quivered. Impossible. Our scouts confirmed Earth's destruction. Voss stepped forward. His boots echoed. Earth fell. Humanity didn't. He tossed a data crystal onto the central dais. It projected a star map, dozens of systems, all untouched, all hidden. You banned us from your wars. Good. We fight differently. The chamber fell silent. The Vaetheri's psychic voice trembled. What did you do to the Zalkathi? Rook met its gaze. Well, show you. But first, you answer one question. He leaned in. Why do you think we were the ones who needed saving? The holograms flickered again. This time, they showed the Zalkathi homeworld, not ruined, not burned, empty. The Crixian's form dissolved into frantic, swirling colors. What are you? The sleek silver vessels of the Galactic Concord slid through the ruins of soul-like surgeons probing a corpse. Their smooth hulls reflected the dim glow of shattered orbital platforms, the twisted skeletons of human defense grids still drifting where they'd died. The lead investigator, a tall Vaetheri named Sirin, floated near the observation deck's transparent wall, her four-fingered hands clasped behind her back. Pathetic, murmured her Crixian counterpart, a swirling cloud of violet gas contained within a containment field. They barely put up a fight. Lieutenant Mara Chen stood stiffly beside them, her cybernetic eye whirring as it tracked the scanning beams lancing out from the Concord ships. The faint scars along her temple, where the surgeons had installed her neural interface, itched, but she didn't scratch. You're looking at it wrong, she said. Sirin's pupil, less eyes flicked toward her. Explain, soft skin. Chen gestured toward the debris field. See that dreadnought embedded in lunar Zalkathi, class Worldbreaker configuration. Notice anything about its position. The Crixian pulsed with irritation. It crashed. What of it? Chen's lips twitched. No, it landed. Look at the angle of impact, controlled descent, not a wreck, and those. She pointed to the drifting hulks of human battleships. Wezen Jericho, Pale Horse, Morning Star, all positioned at exact intervals along the gravity well. One of the Concord's junior analysts, a feathered Tarkesian, squawked. Impossible. No fleet maintains formation during annihilation. Chen tapped her temple. Her eye projected a holographic reconstruction. The battle played out in shimmering light, human ships falling back in precise patterns, herding the Zalkathi armada into specific vectors. Sirin's breath hitched. They let themselves be destroyed? The Crixian's containment field flickered. Preposterous. No species would sacrifice their homeworld. Chen's voice dropped. Unless the sacrifice was the weapon. A new voice crackled over the comms. Captain Voss, watching from the Iron Will's bridge. Lieutenant, show them the real scan. Chen entered a command. The hologram shifted, revealing energy signatures buried in the wreckage. Strange, pulsing waveforms that didn't match any known technology. Sirin recoiled. What is that? Resonance patterns, Chen said. Every human ship was tuned to the same frequency when it died, like keys turning in a lock. The Tarkesian analyst's feathers puffed up. A lock to what? Outside, the scanning beams suddenly flared crimson. Alarms blared across the Concord ships. The Crixian's form compressed into a tight, agitated sphere. Impossible, those readings. Chen watched the panic spread with cold satisfaction. Now you see it. This wasn't a battlefield. It was a trigger. Deep in the debris. Something answered the scans. A pulse of light rippled through the wreckage, synchronizing with the dead ship's resonance. For a heartbeat, the very fabric of space around Luna twisted. Then it stopped. Silence. Sirin's voice shook. What did your people do? Chen turned toward the observation window, where Earth's corpse hung in the dark. We made sure the Zalkathi would never hurt anyone again. The hologram updated. Final fleet positions crystallized into horrifying clarity. Human vessels arranged in a perfect geometric array, their deaths forming a pattern that spanned millions of kilometers. A pattern that looked disturbingly like the firing solution for something unimaginably large. The Crixian's containment field flickered wildly. This is madness. No species could what? Chen interrupted. Calculate the exact positions needed for 1,000 ships to die. Program their eyes to fail at precise moments. Yeah, we could. She tapped her cybernetic eye. And we did. The Tarkesian analyst suddenly vomited, his beak clacking in distress. The Zalkathi homeworld, their entire species just vanished. Chen didn't smile. Didn't gloat. She just watched the hologram, where the last transmission from Earth played on loop, a single phrase, repeated as the planet died. Protocol Samson active. Sirin's claws scraped the observation deck's floor, you monsters." Chen finally turned to face her. "No, monsters don't clean up after themselves." Outside, the ruins of humanity's greatest defeat pulsed with latent energy. Waiting, the Concord delegates didn't notice the Iron Will's weapons powering up behind them. Not yet. The war room aboard the USN Iron Will hummed with low-level energy, the glow of holographic displays casting eerie blue light across the faces of the assembled delegates. Captain Elias Voss stood at the center, his grizzled features unreadable as he tapped a command into the console. The air smelled of ozone and recycled air, the faint vibration of the ship's engines a constant reminder they were floating in the graveyard of a dead civilization. Ambassador Rook leaned forward in his seat, his scarred face half hidden in shadow. The Crixian delegate pulsed nervously, its gaseous form rippling with uneasy colors. The Vathari collective had sent 3 of their kind, their smooth, featureless heads tilted in unison as they prepared to absorb the data. "Play it," Voss said, his voice rough. The hologram flickered to life, a grainy, damaged recording from the final moments of the USN Dauntless. Static hissed. Then a human voice, strained but calm, cut through the noise. "Engineering to bridge, core breach in progress. We won't make it." A pause. Then another voice. This one, colder. "Understood. Activate Protocol Samson." The Vathari twitched as one. Lieutenant Mara Chen watched them, her cybernetic eye narrowing. She had seen this before. They hadn't, the recording jumped. Suddenly the view was external. A Zalkathi dreadnought, its chitinous hull bristling with weapons, fired a volley of plasma lances at the Dauntless. The human ship didn't evade. It didn't need to. The plasma bolts stopped mid-flight. Then, impossibly, they reversed. The Crixian let out a distorted shriek as the Zalkathi ship's own weapons slammed back into it, tearing through its armor like paper. The recording flickered again, showing another ship. This time, a Zalkathi cruiser. Its engines flared, then shut down without warning. The ship drifted, powerless as smaller human vessels swarmed it. There, locked out, a human officer reported in the background. "All systems under our control." The Vathari delegates recoiled, their psychic presence recoiling like a burned limb. One of them hissed, its voice slithering into every mind in the room. "This is a trick, a fabrication." Chen smirked. "No, it's engineering." Voss tapped another command. The hologram shifted. Now it displayed lines of code, scrolling too fast for most species to follow. But the Vathari went rigid. "You let us read your transmissions," one whispered. "You let us see your plans, you." "Wanted you to," Rook finished. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Every order you intercepted, every battle plan you stole, all of it was designed for you to see." The Crixian's form trembled, its colors shifting violently. "You used our own networks against us." "No," Voss said. "We used yours against them." The hologram changed again. This time showing the Zalkathi fleet's command frequency. A human voice, synthesized but unmistakably calm, echoed through the channel. "Dominion vessels, this is USN Command. You are in violation of protected space. Power down your weapons and surrender." Laughter, harsh guttural, came in response. Then the Zalkathi flagship opened fire. The recording showed the human fleet breaking apart, ships exploding under the barrage. But the delegates weren't watching the destruction. They were watching the pattern. Every human ship died in perfect formation. Every wreckage fell exactly where it needed to. Chen stepped forward. Her voice quiet. "You ever hear of a chess gambit? Sacrifice the pawns to trap the king." The hologram zoomed in, on the Zalkathi flagship. Its weapons were still firing, but now the shots curved wildly, striking its own escorts. Its engines flared, then overloaded, sending it careening into another dreadnought. The final image was the Zalkathi admiral's face, his chitinous plates flexing in rage, then horror as his own systems turned against him. The recording ended. Silence. Then the Vathari collective screamed, a psychic backlash, So violent, 2 of the Crixian's attendants collapsed. The delegates staggered, their minds recoiling from the truth. "You let us think we were winning," the lead Vathari gasped. "You let us believe you were weak." Rook stood, his scarred face illuminated by the dying glow of the hologram. "And you never once asked why." The war room's lights flickered back to full brightness. Outside the viewports, the shattered remains of the Zalkathi fleet drifted in the void. Captain Voss crossed his arms. "Now you know what happened to Earth's enemies." The shuttle touched down in what had once been the grand plaza of the Zalkathi capital. Dust swirled in unnatural patterns, clinging to the investigators' environmental suits like grey snow. Captain Voss stepped out first, his boots sinking slightly into the fine powder that covered everything. "This isn't right," Lieutenant Chen murmured, her cybernetic eye whirring as it adjusted focus. "No blast craters, no plasma scarring. The buildings are intact." Ambassador Rook ran a gloved hand along the smooth surface of a nearby monument. The stone was flawless, untouched by time or war. "It is like they just walked away." The Crixian delegate floated nearby, its gaseous form flickering with unease. Where are the bodies? That was the question. The Zalkathi Dominion had numbered in the billions. Their cities should have been littered with corpses, with the remnants of a civilization extinguished. But there was nothing. No bones, no clothing. Not even the faintest trace of organic matter in the air filters. Voss led them down what had once been a bustling thoroughfare. Storefronts stood with their doors open, merchandise still neatly arranged on shelves. A child's toy, a small 6-legged creature carved from wood, lay abandoned in the middle of the street. The captain picked it up, brushing away the dust. "Captain," Chen called from ahead. "You need to see this." She stood before a massive obelisk at the city's center. Unlike the rest of the structures, its surface was covered in markings. Human markings. Voss's breath caught in his throat. "That is English." The words were carved deep into the stone, precise and unyielding. "Remember." The Vathari delegates recoiled as one, their psychic link flaring with sudden distress. "There is no death here." Their leader hissed. "No pain, no fear, it is empty." Rook approached the obelisk, tracing the letters with his fingers. "Not just empty, purged." One of the Concord scientists, a slender being from a water world, adjusted its scanner. "The readings make no sense. If this was a bioweapon, there would be residue. If it was a nanite swarm, there would be structural degradation. But there is nothing, just absence." Chen's eye flickered as she accessed her implants. "Captain, I'm picking up residual energy signatures, concentrated in specific patterns across the city." Voss nodded. "Show me." The holographic display from her wrist projector painted the city in layers of light. The energy traces formed a perfect grid, intersecting at key points. The obelisk, the governmental spire, the major transit hubs. "It is a pattern," Chen said, "mathematically precise. Whatever happened here, it wasn't random." The Crixian's form darkened. "Human weapon." Voss didn't answer immediately. He walked to the edge of the plaza, looking out over the silent city. The wind carried no sound, no scent, no life, just dust. "You assume we killed them," he said at last. "But death leaves traces, decay, chaos." He turned back to the delegates. "This isn't death, this is erasure." The Vathari delegates' voice slithered into their minds, uncharacteristically hesitant. "You removed them from existence itself." Rook stepped forward, his scarred face grim. "Not just from existence, from memory. Look around you. The Zalkathi built monuments to their conquests, their history. Where are they now?" The delegates turned, scanning the plaza. The statues, the murals, the engraved histories, all depicted generic shapes, faceless figures. Nothing distinctly Zalkathi remained. Chen's voice was quiet. Their own civilization forgot them. A shudder ran through the assembled aliens. The Waterworld scientist dropped its scanner, the device clattering loudly in the unnatural silence. This is impossible. No species has such power. Voss hefted the child's toy in his hand, then set it gently back on the ground. You came here to learn what happened to Earth's enemies, he said. Now you know. The Crixian's form pulsed violently. You monsters. Rook shook his head. No monsters leave corpses. Monsters leave scars. He gestured to the pristine city around them. This is something else entirely. The Vaethari delegate suddenly stiffened, its psychic presence recoiling. The signal, Chen's implants flared to life. Captain, we've got incoming energy spikes, same signature as the grid. The ground beneath them trembled, not violently but subtly, like the universe itself taking a deep breath. The obelisk's inscription began to glow, a soft, pulsing light. Voss grabbed Rook's arm. We need to leave now. They ran for the shuttle, the delegate scrambling after them in panic. Behind them, the glow spread through the city's streets, following the grid lines Chen had mapped. The last thing Voss saw before the shuttle doors closed was the child's toy, bathed in that same eerie light. Then it was gone, not destroyed, not vaporized. Unmade. As the shuttle lifted off, the city below remained perfectly intact and perfectly empty. The Crixian delegate's voice was barely a whisper. What have you done? Voss stared out the viewport, his reflection superimposed over the vanishing city. What we had to. The war room aboard the Iron Will hummed with tension. Alien delegates clustered around the holographic display, their forms casting eerie shadows against the bulkheads. Captain Voss stood at the center, his grizzled face illuminated by the flickering blue light of Sol's last stand. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across the console. Watch closely, she said. The hologram zoomed in, revealing the shattered remains of Earth's defense fleet. You're missing the pattern. The Crixian ambassador pulsed, its gaseous form swirling with skepticism. We see destruction chaos. Your species died screaming. Chen's cybernetic eye narrowed. No, they died exactly where they needed to. The playback resumed. Human ships didn't scatter or flee as the Zalkathi armada descended. They held formation, even as plasma fire tore through their hulls. A dying frigate listed sideways directly into the path of the Worldbreaker's main cannon. The impact was calculated, precise. Ambassador Rook leaned forward. Every wreck, every debris field was a stepping stone. The Zalkathi thought they were hunting us. We were herding them. A Vaethari delegate's psychic voice slithered into their minds. Impossible. No species sacrifices itself so coldly. Voss chuckled darkly. You still don't get it. We didn't just accept death, we designed it. Chen tapped a command. The hologram shifted, overlaying a lattice of energy signatures across the battlefield. Thin red lines connected the dying ships, forming a web across the solar system. They weren't just shooting, they were singing. The Crixian's form flickered, singing. Resonance frequencies, Chen said. Every reactor breach, every hull rupture was tuned. The Zalkathi's own weapons fed the signal. The playback froze on the final moment. Earth's last orbital platform, the Gaia's shield, detonated in a burst of golden light. The shockwave didn't expand outward. It folded, collapsing space around the Zalkathi fleet. Rook's scarred face twisted into something bitter. You ever hear of a false vacuum collapse? The Vaethari recoiled as one. A theoretical weapon. It would unravel space-time itself. Would, Voss snorted. We tested it. Silence. The hologram replayed the final seconds. The Zalkathi ships didn't explode. They unraveled, their atoms dispersing like smoke in wind. The Crixian's form trembled, colors bleeding into frantic swirls. You triggered a dimensional collapse? Chen nodded. A controlled one, localized to Sol. The Zalkathi didn't die, they ceased. Rook picked up a data slate, scrolling through equations. We called it Protocol Samson. Pull down the pillars and the temple buries everyone. A Zalkathi scout ship's final transmission crackled through the speakers. The alien's voice was shrill, panicked. Reality is wrong. The stars are static. The Vathor's psychic presence recoiled, their hive mind flickering with distress. You weaponized the fabric of existence. Voss crossed his arms. We understood it. Big difference. The Crixian's form darkened, its edges fraying. This is beyond war. This is heresy. Rook smiled. No, this is humanity. Chen zoomed out, showing the aftermath. The Sol system was gone. Not destroyed, erased. A perfect sphere of nothingness, its edges shimmering with trapped light. The Vathor's voice was a whisper in their skulls. You sacrificed your homeworld. Voss' knuckles whitened around the edge of the table. We had colonies, outposts, but Earth. He looked at the hologram, at the void where blue oceans once shimmered. Earth was the price. The Crixian's form contracted, its colors dimming. Why show us this? Rook tapped the data slate. Because the Zalkathi weren't the real threat, they were just the first wave. The hologram shifted again. A new signal appeared, faint but unmistakable. A transmission from beyond the collapse, a voice, distorted but human. Protocol, Samson successful, initiating Phase 2. The delegates froze. Chen's voice was quiet. You banned us from your wars you thought we lost. But humanity. She gestured to the void where Earth had been. We don't fight, we end. The Vathor's psychic scream echoed through the room as the realization hit. They hadn't witnessed a defeat. They'd witnessed a demonstration. Ambassador Rook stepped forward, the weight of the chamber's silence pressing against his scarred face. The Galactic Concord delegates stared, some with multiple eyes, others with sensory clusters, all fixed on the small data chip in his palm. The air hummed with tension, the kind that came before a storm. You banned us, Rook said, his voice calm but carrying. You called us weak, broken, a species that couldn't defend itself. He tilted his head just slightly. But you never asked how the Zalkathi fell. The Vathari delegate, a sleek figure wrapped in neural tendrils, pulsed with irritation. We saw the footage. Your world's burned. Rook smiled. It wasn't a kind expression, did they? He flicked the data, chip into the air. A hologram bloomed above the chamber floor. Sol system, Earth, Mars, the belt. But not as ruins as they were before. Captain Voss's voice crackled through the playback, grim but steady. All stations, confirm protocol Samson is live. This is it. The footage shifted. The Zalkathi fleet descended, their dreadnoughts blotting out the sun. Human ships engaged, not to win, but to position. Every blast, every retreat, every sacrifice was precise, calculated. Lieutenant Chen's voice cut in, her cybernetic eye glinting in the recording. They're taking the bait, all vectors locked. The Vathari recoiled as one, their psychic link flaring with sudden alarm. You let us see this? You wanted us to think you lost. Rook didn't deny it. The Zalkathi were coming for you next. 12 systems conquered, billions enslaved. You think they'd stop with us? He gestured to the hologram. We could have used Samson on them first, wiped their fleet before they ever reached Sol. The Crixian ambassador, a swirling mass of gas, rippled with unease. Then why didn't you? Because you wouldn't have believed us. Rook's voice hardened. You needed to see it, to know what happens when you push humanity too far. The hologram shifted again, the Zalkathi homeworld, untouched by fire, by radiation, by any known weapon, just empty, a graveyard without graves. The chamber erupted, the Vathari's tendrils lashed, their mental shrieks echoing. You annihilated a species. Rook didn't flinch. No, we unmade a threat, and we're offering you the same choice. He held up a second data chip. This is the containment matrix. The failsafe, use it, and Samson never activates. Break the peace. And he let the implication hang. The Crixian's form shuddered, colors bleeding into frantic swirls. "You're monsters." Captain Voss's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as a blade. "No, we're the reason you're still alive." He stepped forward, his boots clicking against the floor. "The Zalkathi thought they could break us. They were wrong. Now you know the truth." The delegates fell silent. The hologram flickered, showing Earth's ruins one last time, and beyond it, the untouched colonies, the ships waiting in the dark. Rook pocketed the chip. "You banned us from your wars. Good, we don't fight like you." He turned, walking toward the exit. "We end them." The chamber doors hissed shut behind him, leaving the galaxy to decide. Was this mercy? Or a warning? The Crixian ambassador dissolved into panicked colors, its voice barely a whisper. "What are you?" Outside, Rook didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence was enough. The silence in the Concord Hall was absolute. Not even the whisper of anti-grav fields or the hum of translation devices broke the stillness. 100 alien delegates stared at the holograms flickering above the central dais. Earth's shattered continents, the ruins of its cities, the drifting graveyard of its fleet, and beyond it all, untouched, the thriving human colonies in Alpha Centauri, Proxima, and Sirius. Captain Voss stepped forward, his boots echoing on the crystalline floor. His uniform was patched and worn, the insignia of the United Earth Stellar Navy barely visible beneath layers of grime and dried alien blood. He didn't need holograms. He carried the truth in the set of his jaw, the cold fire in his eyes. "You banned us from your wars," he said, voice rough. "Good." The Crixian ambassador pulsed, its gaseous form swirling in agitated patterns. You allowed this. You let us believe you were broken." Lieutenant Chen tapped a command into her wrist console. The holograms shifted, zooming out to show the wider galaxy. Red markers flared, Zalkathi fleet movements, their invasion vectors in the months before Earth's fall. "They weren't just coming for us," she said. Her cybernetic eye gleamed as data scrolled across its surface. "They were heading for Cententrum, for the Vathari homeworlds for you." Ambassador Rook limped to the center of the chamber, his scarred face illuminated by the star map. He held up the data chip, its surface catching the light. "We had 3 choices: die fighting, die running, or die winning." He tossed the chip onto the floor. It clattered, rolling to a stop at the feet of the Vathari delegate. "We chose the last one." The telepathic hive, mind recoiled as one, their collective voice a hiss of static. "You used us. You let us believe you were weak." Voss bared his teeth. "We were weak. That's why we had to be smart." The holograms flickered again, replaying the final moments of the Zalkathi invasion. Human ships, burning and broken, firing not at the enemy, but at empty space, at precise coordinates, at the exact spots where, seconds later, the Zalkathi fleet would be. Chen zoomed in on a single frigate, the USN Dawn's Light. Its captain's final transmission played, crackling through the hall. "All batteries fire on my mark. For Earth, for tomorrow." The Crixian's form trembled, its colors shifting to a sickly violet. You herded them like prey." Rook nodded. "We lured them into a kill box the size of a solar system, and then we erased it." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Vathari delegate's voice slithered into every mind, sharp with dawning horror. "The dimensional collapse. You didn't just destroy their ships. You unmade the very space they occupied." Voss crossed his arms. "We call it Protocol, Samson. Pull down the pillars, burn the temple, take the enemy with you." The holograms shifted once more, showing the aftermath. The Zalkathi homeworld, pristine and untouched. But empty, not a corpse. Not a drop of blood, just silence. A child's toy, half buried in dust. A single word carved into a monument. Remember. The Concord Hall was so quiet now, they could hear the distant hum of the station's reactors. The delegates looked at each other, then at the humans. At the survivors, the Crixian ambassador's voice was barely a whisper. "What are you?" Chen smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. The reason the next species that tries this will think twice. Rook bent slowly, painfully, and picked up the data chip. He held it out to the Vathari. We're giving you this, all of it. The schematics, the math, the warning. The hive mind recoiled. You would arm us with this abomination? Voss laughed, low and dark. No, we're showing you what happens when you push us. He turned, walking toward the exit. His voice carried, echoing off the walls. So don't. The delegates watched him go. The human ships on the holograms burned brighter, their sacrifice eternal, and somewhere, in the untouched colonies beyond the ruins, a new generation of humans looked to the stars, waiting, watching, remembering.